Hello and happy Monday. This is the math lesson for today, and we're going to learn to make a graph. The items that you'll need for today's lesson are your math pages 705 to 708, crayons, a pencil, and your bag of different colored shapes. So make sure that you have all those items, and once you've gathered everything, press play and you'll be ready to begin.
Graph to count objects that have been sorted into categories.
Good morning! It's always fun to visit the hen coop and see my friend Charlie. He always knows what's happening at this end of the zoo. Oh, Charlie says that people were collecting eggs this morning. They collected brown eggs and white eggs. They found lots of eggs. Click the nest to see. Wow! Look at all the eggs! Charlie says that the people wanted to sort and count the eggs. They wanted to sort and classify the eggs by color. Then they wanted to know how many brown eggs there were and how many white eggs there were. Those are good questions. I'm a bit confused about this. Maybe we could find out how to make a graph to help. Come on, let's get started.
Here are some cubes. How many of each do you have? Can you show how many you have in a graph? What will the graph look like? Well, let's start with sorting and classifying the cubes. How can we do this? We can sort and classify the cubes by the category of color. This cube is red. Let's place it on this side. This cube is green. Place it on this side. Let's sort the rest of the cubes. Red, green, green, red, red, green, green. This chart is called a graph. We can use graphs to show information. The title of the graph is Red and Green Cubes. There are 2 rows in the graph. One row is for red cubes, and one row is for green cubes. Let's place the cubes into the graph. Where will we move the red cubes? We'll move them into the row of boxes next to the red cube. Place one red cube in each box in this row. How do we know the red cubes belong in this category? Because all of the cubes in this category are red. Place one green cube in each box in this row. There's a row of red cubes. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes. There's a row of green cubes. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cubes. The graph shows you how many of each cube you have. How will you sort and classify these cubes? By color. Drag each cube into the sorting mat to sort and classify the cubes by color. Check your work when you're done. That's right. You sorted and classified the cubes by color. Now drag the cubes from the sorting mat to the graph. Check your work when you're done. Good job! You placed the orange cubes in the boxes next to the orange cube and the blue cubes in the boxes next to the blue cubes. Now select how many orange cubes there are and how many blue cubes there are. Check your work when you're done. Excellent! In the graph, there's a row of 4 orange cubes and 3 blue cubes. Now let's practice with the personal math trainer.
Okay, everybody should be looking at page 705. And you're going to need also your pencil, your crayons, and your counting shapes. And we're going to learn how to make a graph. Now, last week we started talking about sorting and classifying shapes. And we were classifying by shape, by size, and by color. And we did that because now we're going to take those shapes and sizes and colors, the way that we classified or way that we sorted, and now we're going to take them after we've sorted them or classified them and put them into a graph. And why we do that is because we may want to find out something, maybe how many more things there are in one group than another, which is why we were also counting them last week. We may want to compare things to see how many more things or how many less things are in different groups. Okay, I know on your page you have orange and green, and I only gave you blue and red squares. So you're going to replace your orange square with a red square. And you're going to replace your green square with a blue square. So instead of orange and green, we are going to be using red and blue. All right, and this is what we're going to do today. My friend, James, he has a bunch of red and blue cars, okay? And he's trying to organize his cars, and he wants to find out how many of each he has. So he took out his cars and he sorted them in his sorting mat, just like this, which is the same thing that I want you to do. I want you to sort or classify cars just like this. So you're going to sort out some red and some blue squares, or right now we're going to be calling them cars, into your 2 groups up top on top of your graph. Okay, you should have 4 red and 5 blue. All right, once you're finished with that, then we'll go on to the next step. Pause if you need to, okay, because you need to have those sorted up there. All right, once you have those sorted up at the top, then we start moving them into our graph, okay? And this down here, this down here, right here, is called our graph. It kind of looks like a 10 frame, if you remember, except that this one doesn't have only 10 boxes. This one actually has 12 boxes. So it can't be a 10 frame. It's, I guess we could call it a 12 frame, but this is called our graph, okay? And the I'm sorry, not the boxes, the cubes on the outside, we don't count those. Those are our indicators or our signs to show us where the red cubes are going to go and where the blue cubes are going to go. Okay, so when we move our cubes from the boxes up in the top up here, we know that our red cubes are going to go in the top row and our blue cubes are going to go in the bottom row beneath it. Okay, so when we start moving our cubes, which you can start doing now, you're going to move red cubes and you'll have a red cube here. That's for 1. You'll move another one down to here. That's 2. Another one here. That's 3. And another one here. And that's 4. Okay? And then when you start moving your blue cubes, you'll move those down as well. Move your first one over here. So there's 1, then 2, then 3, 4, and then move your last cube down to there. And so once you move your cubes, actually, this is what it will look like over here. Okay, to the left next to my little skateboarding ice cone man. That's what yours should look like when it's done. Okay, once you've moved all of your cubes, or your cutout cubes, your paper cubes, go ahead and draw them in there. So you should draw 4 red cubes up on the top line and 5 blue or squares, 5 blue squares on the bottom line. When you're finished with that, and that is how we have shown how many red cubes we have, or how many red cars he has, and how many blue cars James has. Okay, so now we're showing what we have, how many we've separated. We've separated them into the graph, okay? We're going to keep going on the next page. So once you're finished with here, continue on to the next page and I will meet you over there. All right, now we're on page 706. And on this page, you're going to need to grab some blue and red cubes or squares from your shape bag. And I've already grabbed mine shapes and I put them on my paper. I have the red ones up here in my box already. I've sorted them or classified them according to color. I've put them here, and then I've already classified my blue ones on the other side. So I've sorted and classified my shapes into blue and red. I need you to go ahead and do the same thing. Now, you may have a different amount. Okay, you're just going to grab some blue ones and some red ones and put them down and sort them into the 2 boxes on top, to blue and red. Okay, and once you do that, once you finish with that, then we're going to move them down into our graph. Okay, boys and girls, we're still on page 706, but now I have moved my my shapes, my red and blue squares or cubes, from my sorting or classifying mat up top down into my graph. You see right there, I've sorted them. Now I've classified them into red and blue. Okay, so now I want you to do that. Take them from your top mat. You should move them into, sorting them into the red and blue graph. And then once you're done with that, it's time to come to number 3. And for number 3, what we're going to do is we need to count how many red ones and how many blue ones do you have in your graph. Now your graph might look different. For me, you might have different numbers. You might have more blue ones than red ones. Now if you look, I have a greater number of red ones than blue ones. I have less blue than red. Okay, in my graph, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 red ones. And I have 1, 2, 3 blue ones. I have 3 blue ones. Okay, so now I have counted my cubes. I know that I have 4 red and 3 blue. All right, so you go ahead and do the same for your graph after you finish sorting them, sorting your shapes from this section, from the top mat, sort them into your graph, and then count how many you have in each section of your graph and write the number next to each color. Once you're finished, go to the next page. Now you should be on page 707, and this time we're going to be using green circles and green triangles. So make sure that you have both of those shapes out, probably no more than 6 shapes per, or 6 pieces per shape, I should say. So no more than 6 triangles and 6 circles you will need. And go ahead and classify your shapes in the top box, okay, up in this sorting box. Classify your shapes up there, which means to sort them. Classify means to sort, and you're going to put your circles in one side and your triangles in the other side. So this time we're not sorting by color. This time we're sorting by what? That's right, we're sorting by shape because we're putting our circles on one side and our triangles on the other side. So I've already done that. I've got all my circles over here and I've got all my triangles over here. All right, and the next step after you do that is to go ahead and move them down into your graph, which is section number 5 right there. All right, and we see it tells us where to move them. Right here is the circle, so everything in this top row is going to be where we move all of our circles. And down here, where the triangle is, in this bottom row is where we're going to move all of our triangles. So after you've sorted everything, your shapes that you have, go ahead and put them in your sorting mat up top, and then once you're done, go ahead and move those shapes down into the graph, okay? And I'm going to move over to the next page and I'll meet you over there. All right, we're still on page 707. We haven't turned the page yet. I've just moved up some of my stuff around. If you can see, I have moved my shapes from my sorting mat up there down into my graph. And I've moved all my circles up into the top row where the circles go, and I've moved my triangles into the bottom row where my triangles go. Okay, remember yours may look different. You may not have the same amount of triangles and you may not have the same amount of circles as I do, because you may have, you may have pulled out a different amount. But as long as your circles go at the top and your triangles are on the bottom row, then you're doing it perfectly. All right, our next step for number 6, I'm sorry, go back to number 5. Once you remove the circles and the triangles that you have placed there with your shapes, I need you to go back and draw what you've put there. So once you move your shapes, if you have 5 circles there, then draw the 5 green circles. If you have 4 green triangles, then draw the 4 green triangles. So for my paper, if I was doing it, once I picked up my shapes, I would draw 5 green circles, and then below it I would draw 6 green triangles. Okay, so don't forget to draw your shapes so that I can see them there. Okay, you don't have to glue your shapes on there, you can draw them on there. Then once you're done with that, come down to number 6 and count how many shapes, how many green circles do you have. Write your number right here on that line. Then go back and count how many green triangles you have. Once you've counted your green triangles, write that number that tells how many you have next to the green triangle. Once you're finished there, then we can go on to page 708. Okay, now we're on the last page, which is 708, and for this lesson, you're going to need only 5 colored squares, only 5, okay? The red and blue ones, it doesn't matter how you mix them up, but you will need 5 red and blue squares, okay? Now what you're going to do is, if you look over here where I'm circling, I've already colored mine in. Yours are not any color right now. You need to color those in. I colored my top one red and my bottom one blue. You may do the same, okay? And down here on the bottom also, I've colored them the same way, where my top one is red and the one below it, my bottom one, is blue. Okay, so it matches what my graph looks like. The top row is red, the bottom one is blue. All right, so make sure that you color in those cubes so you know what shape, what color shape you will be putting in which row. So make sure you do that first, pause the video, do that, and then continue. Okay, now once you're done coloring in those shapes, you need to classify or sort these 5 shapes that you've gathered, okay? And then which ones should we put up here on our top row? Yes, we should put the red ones because our red counter we colored in right there. So we want to mark our red ones. Now for me, I only have 1, 2. So I'm going to put my red counters there. Now, 1, 2. I put my red counters there. You will put them there. You're also going to need to draw them in there to show me what you have. So you can draw them now. You can, you can draw them now, or you can place them over there and draw them later, whichever you prefer. Okay. And then we go back to our blue counters. How many blue counters do I have? 1, 2, 3. So I can move them over, or I can draw them now. Okay. I can't switch screens and move them, or I can't move them now on this screen while I'm recording. So I'm just going to draw mine right now. I have 3. Okay, so I've moved my counters over. And so now what I can do is I can count how many I have up in my red row. Okay, how many red cubes do I have? I have 1, 2. So now I come down to where I write the number of red cubes I have, and right next to the red one I will write 2. And then I come down to my next row where I have my blue cubes, and I count how many blue cubes I have. 1, 2, 3. And I have 3 blue cubes. All right, now what you can do is, if you just moved your cubes there, you can take your cubes away, and now you can go ahead, because you have your numbers there. How many red cubes do you have? How many red cubes did you, whoops, let me get my yellow highlighter. How many, what's the number that you wrote next to red? You wrote 2, or I wrote 2 because that's how many I had. So now, since we've moved these, we can come back up and draw 2, right? How many blue cubes were there? 3. So now we can come back up and draw 3. 2, 3. All right. You may end up with the same number as me. You may end up with 4 red and 1 blue, or 1 red and 4 blue, or 3 red and 2 blue. Remember when we learned about all the different ways to make the number 5? We talked about all the different numbers that we could add to make 5. It could be 4 and 1, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 3 and 2. So I'm curious to see what you guys will have on your paper. Once you're finished with this, that's all for math today. You still have reading and phonics and also science if you haven't done those lessons. But other than that, those are our lessons for today. Once you've finished, you're done. And I hope you guys have a great afternoon. I miss you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.